let me ask you this. You just said that we need to cut down the size of the government. And, at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, that's what you mean. But if you look at it between both the administration, whether they are Democrats or they are Republicans, the size of the government keeps on increasing.
Thank you very much.
And the size of the debt keeps on increasing, particularly during the Trump time, just 4 years of Trump, and the debt increased by about $8 trillion, How do we control all these things, Chris?
Well, ultimately, the Democrats are entirely compromised, and the Republicans are partially compromised. So our only hope is in the Republican Party, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because what happened here in our Texas counties is the grassroots organizations, we fought our hearts out to get Republicans elected, and we took back the state, the House, led by Dave Fallon, who is the Speaker of the House, okay? So we fought for them. They get in office, and what is the first thing that Dave Fallon and his crony Republicans bring to us? Casinos in Texas. While our border is crumbling, while our debt is exploding, while our currency is eroding, Dave Fallon stumps for casinos in Texas as if that is the burning issue on our minds. Right then and there, we knew he's a paid-for man. He's a company man, okay? And so, casinos in Texas, we can have that debate someday, okay? I'm not taking a position on casinos in Texas, but clearly the man goes into office with an attempt to distract us. Now, okay, so here's what happened. That is the first shot across our bow, meaning the grassroots organization, by the establishment, letting us know that they have the Republicans too. Here's shot number 2, okay? So there is one man in the state of Texas that is fighting for your rights more than any other, and his name is Ken Paxton, and he is the Attorney General. He is the top cop in the state of Texas. And what he is doing is all of these lawless initiatives that the Biden administration is pouring down on Texans. Ken Paxton is fighting back with lawsuits, and he has a success rate in these lawsuits, I believe, of more than 70%. He is a problem for the establishment.
Hold on, just right there. Even the Republicans voted for his impeachment. As a matter of fact, a very good friend in Fort Bend County, that who voted, a Republican who voted to impeach him.
J.C. Jeton or Gary Gates.
Right. Mm-hmm. And now they said that there is a couple of guys that are running against him.
That's right.
And Paxton is supporting him, supporting those candidates against Jason.
Right.
So yeah. Was Jason wrong in doing that?
Absolutely.
So is that the only point that is against him, or no, has he not done anything good at representing?
He votes with the Democrats consistently. Okay,
the record shows that he was 98% with the Republican Party, though.
Those debates are questionable. Those statistics are questionable, but plain and simple, he has been labeled one of the dirty dozen by the Texas Scorecard, which is an outstanding publication that it produces articles, content that is here to support us, to defend the citizens of Texas, and they've dubbed J.C. Jeton part of the dirty dozen because he's
Which publication?
The Texas Scorecard. Okay. But I'm going to get to that.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? The one thing that Ken Paxton's fought for, this is the number one issue to all people in the state of Texas, in the country, is election integrity. That means one vote for one person. And if we fix that one issue, everything else fixes, from potholes to failing schools to lawless borders. Everything, to our worst nightmares with these human trafficking, everything fixes if you fix election integrity. Because what election integrity happens, if you get that fixed, all of a sudden you have candidates actually competing for your vote like athletes, saying they'll do it faster, better, quicker, under budget. Election integrity is everything, okay? And the one man who is fighting for election integrity more than anyone in the state of Texas is Ken Paxton. Okay, and so what Ken Paxton's doing is when you hear the word mail-in votes, just know that they mean to do fraud. The purpose of mail-in ballots is not to determine elections. It is to steal elections. So if you hear a county official saying he wants more mail-in ballots, it means that he wants to steal an election. Ken Paxton knows this. And so what the establishment was doing is they had initiatives across the state of Texas to expand mail-in ballots everywhere. And Ken Paxton went into in a court setting multiple times, and he won 100% success rate to defeat those mail-in ballot initiatives. If those things had won, Beto O'Rourke would be your governor right now. You have Ken Paxton to thank for the fact that Beto O'Rourke is not your governor.
Along with Paul Betancourt.
Paul Betancourt's excellent.
Right.
Right.
So let me ask you, now that the laws have been changed as far as mailing voting is concerned, now they require signature verification. They used to mail out anyone that above 65, they used to mail out. They don't do that anymore. You have to literally call in the treasurer's office to get a mail-in ballot. And then once you get the mailing ballot, you literally have to sign those mail-in ballot. And once the treasurer's office receives those mailing ballots, they go and verify the signature and all these things. If I do my mailing ballot, I do not know whether my vote has been counted or not counted. So with all the right thing in place, how do you say that the mailing ballot it all means is a fraud?
Well, first of all,
I just want to tell our listeners that you're listening to the flip side with
Chris Heasley.
Heasley out here. And he's from Freedom Matters, a grassroots
Right.
organization in Fort Bend County that he started with a few of his friends. And Jagat Kanda and Ramesh Anand on FM 103.5. I would not ask you to call because the phone has gone for a toss right now. But please keep listening and hope you enjoy the conversation. All yours, Chris.
So there's a difference between absentee ballots and mail-in ballots. Absentee ballots are a legitimate form of voting with a thorough verification process, and they are intended for overseas military, elderly who can't make it to the
Right.
polls and things of that sort. Mail-in ballots is not that. Mail-in ballots is haphazard. It's reckless, and it's Jimmy Carter in the early 2000s did a study. He went across the planet and did a study on election integrity, and his conclusion was, do not do mail-in ballots. That's how they're stealing elections everywhere. And so what I'm saying is that, getting back to my original argument, Ken Paxton is fighting for election integrity, the issue that solves all issues. And ultimately, you know, when you're fighting for that stuff, you find yourself in the crosshairs of the establishment. And by the establishment, I mean Speaker of the House, Republican Dade Fallon. Dade Fallon is a son of he's a rich kid, son of a developer. And what he does is he throws his money out in that state house, donating to campaigns possibly more than anyone else. He puts a lot of money into campaigns. And so what he did is he tried to use his influence to take out Ken Paxton. And ultimately what he did is he got a group of Republicans to partner with Democrats to impeach Ken Paxton. They did this in a session that was maybe one day long. They did it when we were going into, I believe, a holiday weekend, and hoping that nobody would know what they had just done. And, you know, so what happened is that now, when they did this, they had the corporate media in place. The corporate media immediately was ready to go, their arguments in place, their propaganda spewing, going against Ken Paxton. They had their dirty dozen Republicans in place, ready to get those votes. And so they impeached Ken Paxton. I'd like to make one more point. Before this happened, Dade Fallon went on the House Speaker floor and did a speech where he looks intoxicated. Okay. And so what Ken Paxton did is he called him out and he said, you know, that is not how you represent the state of Texas going up. It looks like you've had a few. It looks like you might be sipping one right now. And that's appalling. Ken Paxton made a public statement on it. Boom, Ken Paxton's impeached. Okay? And so the Republicans, that state house impeached it. Now it's going to the Senate. And this is really a great test of where we are today, because it would only be reasonable to put your money on the establishment to win this thing. They had Dade Fallon money. They had the corporate media in place. And they have the establishment. You know, Ken Paxton, by the way, in his last election, he defeated a Bush family member in the primary. Okay, with that, it's the end of the Bush legacy in the state of Texas. Another massive blow dealt by Ken Paxton to the establishment. Okay? And so, thank you very much for that, by the way. And so now the establishment's very well positioned, and us grassroots are caught off guard. but we go into activist mode, and goodness gracious, I mean, it's really impressive what happened is that we, began doing public events, we began doing protests, we began doing online shows, and we rallied the citizens of the state of Texas. And we began calling these senators who were going to hear this Senate impeachment trial and letting them know they better stick with the law. Because I promise you, those senators, if we had not done that, they were going to go with the establishment. But they knew it. They knew we have primary now, right? And by the way, your state representatives who voted to impeach Ken Paxton locally, J.C. Jeton, Gary Gates, and Lacey, I believe her name's Lacey Hall. And so what happened is that we got contenders to go, candidates to go in, primary candidates to go up against them who are having tremendous, they're getting a tremendous attention amongst the people. It's going to be a really good primary. And there's a very good chance that this dirty dozen becomes a dirty half dozen, okay? And ultimately it went to the Senate, and the Senate, they did not want to do it. They did not want to, go up against the citizens, and they voted to keep Ken Paxton in place. And so, and then our lieutenant governor, I apologize, I can't think of his name, but he made a very impassioned speech where he essentially said, what happened was a travesty. The reason he said that is because, we had, the men of 1836, the men that defeated Santa Anna's army, when they did that for the sake of law and order in the state of Texas. They were attempting to set a foundation for law and order in the state of Texas, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice. And thank God for those men. And that's why we have these big houses in Texas. This is why we have these great lives that we do. We can go and spend our weekends at sporting events or whatever. It's because of the men of 1836. And what we saw with what the Republicans did in the State House with that kangaroo sham impeachment it was an attempt to go banana republic in the state of Texas. That's what it was. Ken Paxton's attempting to restore law and order. The establishment, crony Republicans, they want to go banana republic. And that's a question for the citizens of Texas. Where are you going to stand on this? Because the men of 1836 set down the foundation so you can live a good life. And there is a serious element in our midst between the Democrat Party and the establishment Republicans to turn us into a lawless society, a society of peasantry, a society that Santa Anna's invading army intended to put on us, the men of 1836 defeated. And it's here today. And it's on the people of Harris and Fort Bend counties to put down your kids' soccer games, put down your NFL Sundays, and start getting active locally.
Just I was wondering, that the way you were saying it, that Paxton was never guilty of doing anything, but apparently all the indications are that Paxton was found guilty of doing something wrong in the office.
So first off, if there was any crimes that he did, they happened before he was elected. Okay, and I'm not saying that there were. I'm saying that the minute that man became, I believe he started his career as a state senator. I'm a state representative.
Right.
And he immediately became an opponent of Karl Rove, who is the establishment Republican leader in the state of Texas, a representative of the Bush family.
Right.
But my point being is that anything that he potentially did, okay, happened before he was elected, and the law states that anything that happens before you're elected, that the law essentially says that election is the people are the judge and jury on your candidacy, and when they elect you, you attain office. It nullifies anything that happened before there.
So let's talk about a little different thing here.